Good morning, everyone. Good morning. How is your heart today? Is your heart kind? How is your mind? Is your mind calm and clear? This video is about what this channel is about, and it's straight talk. Straight talk. Let's break it down. I have no cable or satellite dishes. I have internet service, and I watch programs or channels through a Roku box. Mostly I use YouTube because I like history, I like documentaries, I like researching uh, a variety of topics. So if I'm watching a video underneath, or I don't know, 15, 18, 20 some, like recommended videos, I guess you could say, and I read the titles to them. One recently that I saw, and I'm not going to mention a channel name, um, and I don't remember the exact title, but it had something to do with disconnect from the matrix and lust will disappear. Disconnect from the matrix and lust will disappear. That's a pretty common and typical title from people that make videos about spirituality. The problem with that is, to me, there's finger pointing that this is the problem, i.e., the matrix. Like, the matrix is designed to suck you in and keep you a slave and keep you addicted. And a lot of times I've found in these titles and then the topics, there's always something to point the finger at. Well, if it wasn't for video game producers, and commercials that promote these video games, there wouldn't be a problem. Things like this. I think you are picking up what I'm putting down. And in as much as that's partly true, that if these things didn't exist, we wouldn't be tempted or sucked in or become addicted, that's not what the underlying problem is. The underlying problem is you, me, people, human beings. And when it comes to improving your life, whether you're involved in a spiritual group of people with a common philosophy or a religion, a lot of times there are excuses made when we fail. when we're using these systems and we fail. I have experience in spiritual programs, specifically the 12 steps, and I have experience in religion, specifically Christianity, Bible preaching church. And when I talk about excuses, this is what I mean. And I've made videos on all of this stuff from my experience. I'm going to be 67 soon, and I've been involved in all of them for decades. So when someone isn't successful in the 12-step program, there's always a reason that people point out to why you failed. The most common one is you stopped going to meetings. When it comes to 12-step program, you stopped going to meetings. And I've debunked that in many videos. In religion, okay, you have a problem. You want to improve your quality of life. You want to change. Maybe it goes good for a while and then you don't have success. Well, you're not going to enough church meetings. Or now you need to tithe because that's the problem. Or it was the devil. That's the problem. I'm not anti 12-step and I'm not anti-religion. It's straight talk here. Straight talk. I think if you listen to what I'm about to say, you'll understand it, and I'll give two examples that we're familiar with. A common one is this battle against opioid addictions. And a lot of times you'll hear it said that that just masks an underlying issue. You're not getting to the root of the problem. You're just masking it. And that's true. In a lot of cases, that's true. But I know people that have identified the underlying causes, and they can't function without some type of pain relief, okay? Here's another example. Do you let your car or truck or van or motorcycle warm up in the morning? Why is that? I never paid much attention to it until I was like 17. That was 50 years ago. I was working in with a company that sold cars and was involved in other enterprises with the government, with Jeeps and military vehicles, reconditioning them and selling them. So I used to clean cars, wash them, wax them, do the interiors. But I would go to work in the morning around 7:30. And in the area where they repaired the cars, that part of that business, that garage, there would be vehicles parked in the center of the garage. In other words, there would be 4, 5, 6 bays over here where there were cars being worked on, 4, 5, 6 bays over here where there were cars being worked on. And for some reason at night, they'd pull 3, 4 vehicles in between there in the middle. And in the morning, the owner would come of the company, put the big garage door up and say, pull these vehicles out but let them run for 1 minute. You let these vehicles run for 1 minute so the oil circulates in the engine. The transmission fluid starts to circulate in the transmission, and you give a chance for the cooling system to start to work. All of it without stress and strain. When it comes to bad habits, or you have habits or hobbies that are affecting your quality of life, you're involved in activity more than what a typical person would be involved in. We can't say, well, yeah, he plays video games all day, but if those companies didn't promote video games or make video games, there wouldn't be that problem. Okay. Same thing with social media. Do you know people that spend time on social media all day long? That's a problem. That's a problem. And it's not the company's fault that has these Facebook, Twitter, whatever there are today. Same thing with pornography. Same thing with watching the news, watching TV all day, every minute of the day. The underlying issue is we've come to a point where we are using these devices and using these programs in excess, and we become addicted to it. Addicted to it. How does that happen? I'm self-taught in quantum mechanics and quantum physics, how the brain works, okay? And what it comes down to simply is the pleasure people get when they do these things. The pleasure you get when you turn on that TV first thing in the morning. The pleasure you get when you start playing video games. The pleasure you get when you go on social media. The pleasure you get when you watch pornography. That's just the surface of it, because what happens in the mind is all those four things I just mentioned: television, video games, pornography, social media, stimulate the brain. You get stimulated from it, and you get dopamine hits in the brain. If you haven't watched this documentary movie that I've mentioned now for decades, it's called What the Bleep Do We Know? It's a great documentary / movie. It's actually about science and spirituality, but it explains how the brain works. It explains how we get addicted. It explains the stimulation. It explains the dopamine hits. At some point, when we develop this habit first thing in the morning, turn the TV on right away, go on social media right away, go start playing video games right away, start watching pornography right away. When that becomes a habit, at some point, a little isn't enough. And it's not enough because the mind, the brain wants more stimulation. So you watch TV all day and you flip flop from channel to channel. You might be watching one channel and, this is boring. Boom, I'm going to go to this one. Oh, and then that becomes boring. So what happens is the original stimulation isn't enough. You need more. You need something more intense. Same thing with video games. Same scenario. A little isn't enough. After a while, the brain, the mind wants more stimulation, more endorphin hits to feel good about it. Same thing with social media. Same thing with pornography. I know people that get up and watch YouTube videos first thing in the morning. A lot of it like political stuff. And the gentleman spoke to me. He said, man, it's at the point, I start watching a video and I'm a minute into it and I'm like, nah, this ain't no good. So then I go and watch another one. Boy, you could go down a rabbit hole on YouTube that way. But what's happening now is what used to stimulate him, the discourse going on, the people talking in these videos about politics, that hasn't changed. What's changed is the discussions that were satisfying before aren't enough. And most likely, a typical discussion, well, it isn't enough. So when he switches to another video where they're putting each other down, putting this group down, putting that group down, there's arguments, then that isn't enough. Oh, now he's going to videos, there's riots over. It's the same topic that two people were discussing that originally was, okay, I'm getting information I need. Well, now that's not enough. It has to keep intensifying to stimulate the mind to get those dopamine hits. So it gets to a point from two people discussing what's going on in politics today to, oh yeah, look at this, they're rioting over it. Okay? The same thing with pornography. It starts here at one level, and then that's never enough. And then it starts getting sick. And social media. I know most people say, I have Facebook to keep in touch with friends. Well, if you're on it 6 to 8 hours a day, I think you're a little bit beyond getting in touch with friends. All of this turns into addictions. You get addicted to the stimulation from technology. And it never fails. At some point, maybe a little bit was okay, but then it becomes boring. So you need more to get more stimulation in the mind, more dopamine hits. And lastly, when you're addicted to the stimulation of television, video games, social media, and pornography, general activities in your life don't provide the stimulation you get from doing those other things. And all of a sudden you're like bored. Oh, I know I committed to helping these people, take their dog out, but why am I doing this now? I told my grandmother I would cut her grass. Why do I have to do it? Things like this, okay? Because those typical activities, responsibilities, and commitments you took probably long before you were addicted to the stimulation from television, video games, social media, and pornography. It's not that they're boring, it's that they interrupt your flow of stimulation that you get from technology. And now you're making excuses because it's interrupting the stimulation flow. You have to try this to find out what the root problem is. When I get up in the morning, I already have my coffee pot set up, okay? I get up, before I go to the bathroom, I quick come in the kitchen and turn the coffee pot on. Then I go to the bathroom, I get dressed. And by then the coffee's done. And I go right outside on my deck for 5 to 10 minutes every morning. And I do that throughout the day. Sit on my deck. No phone, no television, no music. When I get up in the morning, I don't turn on technology or look at technology, phone, TV, etc. I come in, turn the coffee pot on, go to the bathroom, get dressed, and I go outside and sit on my deck. Remember what I said about leaving a car warm up in the morning? Well, in a way you could say I'm giving my mind a chance to warm up. So it's not being stimulated by this technology and these activities I mentioned right off the bat. First of all, I hope you watched that movie / documentary, What the Bleep Do We Know? And it explains how the mind works, how addiction works, how we wire the brain. You keep doing this, you keep doing these things because you wire your brain. But you can also change that. It's more than breaking a habit. Once I knew in 2004 when that What the Bleep Do We Know came out, once I knew how my mind worked, it was easier to fix the problem, which was me. And it had to do with my mind. Our minds are not designed to process and be overstimulated by television, news all day long, playing video games all day long, being on social media all day long, and pornography. The mind is not designed to process that. So I go out on my deck for 5 to 10 minutes and sit there with no distractions from technology. I'm giving my mind a chance to warm up. And I ask myself 4 questions. What do I need to do today? What should I do today? What do I have to do today? What's most important? I'm kind of a TV watcher. Watching TV isn't important today. I'm not making excuses. I'm a disabled veteran. I can't move like I used to. And I watch a little too much TV throughout the day. But it's not a lot of garbage. Whether it's TV or social media, okay? Aristotle said everything in moderation. My mind is warming up when I'm sitting there. You could say I sit in silence, but there's birds and wind and noise and a car coming by every now and then. But it's not bleep, 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 bloop, lights flashing, constant, oh, look at this topic and, oh, what's going on in the world and, you know, I gotta beat this guy on this video game. I gotta beat them. Leave me alone, type of thing. And not even gonna get into pornography. How that ruins your life. So I just sit there. I get up, turn on the coffee pot, go to the bathroom, get dressed, grab a coffee, and go outside. And just sit there and ask myself those 4 questions. What do I need to do today? What should I do today? What do I have to do today? What's most important? My mind is warming up like that car in that garage, and now when I put it in reverse or drive to pull it outside, now when I get up from sitting out there, I have a good idea what I need to do today. What should I do today? What do I have to do today? What's most important? I live by 3 rules that came to me in meditation. 1, to go through the day and not harm anyone with my words or my deeds. 2, to not be involved or engaged in destructive activity or useless activity. 3, to make a great effort to not put anything into my body that will affect my faculties in a negative way. It's pretty simple. If you decide to try first thing in the morning to go outside immediately upon awakening, and you're sitting there and all you could think about is what's on the news, what's on TV, what's on the latest talk show. If you go outside and you're sitting there in silence and all you could think about is getting in there and playing a video game, if you're out there sitting in silence and all you could think about is what's going on social media, who said this, who said that, if you're out there sitting in silence and all you could think about is watching pornography, you have identified the problem. Make it an amazing day. Make it. It's your choice. It's your decision what kind of day you're going to have. And make it an amazing life. it's your choice, it's your decision what kind of life you're going to have, so why not have a good one? I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully. Johan out. Peace.